This is Magnus Carlsen, and he's been having a hard time lately. But it can't be that bad. He's in a good mood here, and he's signing the autograph. So, he's arriving at the FIDE World Team Rapid and Blitz Chess Championships. He competes in the Rapid, and he doesn't do so great. And we're on to the Blitz now. And we're expecting to see him improve from these recent losses. It's Magnus versus Vishy. A seriously scary dynamic is going on between these two players because they have competed against each other in World Chess Championships. Anand is known for his impressive openings. He's got like a database up there, and in Blitz, when you're going really fast, if you don't have to think, that's saved time. He's also Magnus's toughest opponent that he's faced for this entire tournament so far that I've been covering. If you missed the last games, go ahead and check them out over here, and make sure to like and subscribe down below. So let's get right into it. Magnus is black, and e4, c5, the Sicilian, well known for its fighting chances that it provides the black player. So Magnus is opting for this because he's got a desire to win. Knight f3, e6, opening up the bishop and preparing the d5 center push. Of course, if you play chess, fighting for the center is of great importance. You can see it's defending this pawn, preparing this attack here to d5. So we get to see d4, fighting for the center. Vishy is thinking the exact same thing, drops this bomb into the center of the board. C takes d4, knight takes d4, and the game turns into an open Sicilian. Something we can expect to see a little less of a cramped game and less slow building attacks. Maybe more tactical kind of things, what you can kind of expect when you see this sometimes. Knight c6, knight c3, and this is where the complexity really ramps up because there's just so many moves for Magnus. He can literally go almost anywhere that he chooses. Magnus opts for this queen slide to c7 without familiarity. This move seems peculiar, but it is a very common move for black in this position. In fact, it's the top move in master level games. So, of course, this is eyeing the d5 square, which is going to be important to defend so that you don't get e5 pushing onto your knight. Developing the bishop is, of course, very important. The d file might also open up later on, and so this open file here onto the queen, you don't want the queen to be on there. This oftentimes happens in these openings, so just get the queen out of the way early on. So bishop e3, developing move, a6, very important. Again, fighting for this key square. These two knights are aiming at this b5 square, so just blocking it out. It's a very nice prophylactic move. Bishop e2, knight f6, and e5 is tightly controlled, so you can develop there safely and reasonably. Castles, bishop e7, also preparing for castling. f4. Now this move is, of course, protected by this rook. It's preparing for this e5 move, and so there's definitely a threat on the board. Now Magnus has to be a little bit careful and decides to play d6, keeps the game equal and avoids being completely cramped by Vishy, because this move would just come down pretty hard on that knight. So now king h1, I don't know what's going on here, guys. This is above my pay grade. Castles, maybe just getting off this diagonal for the future, but I don't know. Queen e1, and then bishop d7. So queen g3, bringing the queen over here and actually preparing and assisting in this attack for e5. So again, you see this attack here that I was talking about early on, moving the queen here. Both queens perfectly placed to deal with this. b5, just making an attack on this queen side, just developing. Magnus sort of does something called stirring the pot. He sort of just does a lot of these moves. Both of them do. You know, rook b8, just preparing and preparing and preparing for e5. Here it is. Now, if this move was played earlier, it would have spectacularly failed. You can see that the queen is placed to help out with this attack. So, like, why not e5? You know, right away. Why wait, right? So let's just go through the line and see what happens. So d takes e5, knight takes c6, bishop takes c6, f takes e5, queen takes e5, and you see that pawn there has fallen, bishop f4, and black is up a pawn. So the slow preparation for e5 is necessary. If you count the pawns, you'll see that it's up a pawn. So you really have to do all these extra moves, and Vishy's aware of this, Magnus is aware of this. So e5 comes, d takes e5. The computer actually would have preferred knight e8 here. You can imagine why a human might not choose to play such a move, as it blocks the rooks and further cramps up this 8th rank, right? It's just very cramped back there. F takes e5, knight takes e5. And not that there was anything wrong with taking with the pawn. I think it's completely fine, actually. It's just a computer slightly preferred the other one. So knight takes e5. And now here, Vishy plays a very tricky move. Rook takes f6. This move, a little peculiar. Why would somebody do this? Sack the exchange, right? But it's because after bishop takes f6, you can see that the bishop has to be on the f6 square because it recaptured. Instead of being able to move to the d6 square, preparing for this unbearable pin, Magnus has 30 seconds and the position is electric. Everything sits on a knife's edge. Bishop c6. The best move was to break the pin with queen b6. So the bishop move is actually a mistake. Bishop takes e5, bishop takes e5, queen takes e5, f6, queen e4, e5, and knight b3. And you can see that technically the material is equal, but with more active pieces on the board, white has a minor advantage, but black holds onto his light square bishop, a key defending piece. So I wanted to go over this just a little bit more. I went ahead and removed that bishop and a knight, and you can see already when I turn on the analysis here, it's plus 1.7 for white. So this is just a key thing to keep in mind. When you have those imbalanced exchanges, you know, like a rook for 2 minor pieces or something like that, and you end up with these imbalances where there's 2 minor pieces or 3 minor pieces, and then a single minor piece for you and 2 rooks. This kind of exchange creates an imbalance where as you get lower and lower on the amount of pieces, you are eventually left with just 2 rooks versus 3 whole pieces. And that difference of not having an extra piece to help you out kind of hinders and diminishes the rook's ability to win the game, especially when you have these 2 pawns here. So that's why it's so important for Magnus to not give his bishop up like that when he's in this kind of exchange where he's got less pieces on average than Vishy does. So instead we see bishop c6 from Magnus, a mistake. He's very low on time, and he spent half his time just thinking of this move. Knight takes c6, taking that bishop again, and we're getting one step closer to only having 2 rooks. So queen takes c6, bishop takes e5, bishop takes e5, queen takes e5, and you can see that the bishop is traded, the material is equal, but the position is dominating for white. Down another piece, and the disparity in the active pieces becomes apparent. With key moves Vishy can make and secure 2 passed pawns, the win would be imminent. However, this is the kind of mistake a human may never even be aware of. The game continues, bishop d3, queen d6, queen takes d6, rook takes d6, and you can see now 2 rooks versus 3 pieces. Rook c6. Now we're just going to see a lot of moves, you know, kind of pushing these pawns and the rooks vying for opportunity in the open files. And then now we get c3, rook d2, and Vishy only has 1 move in this position. Can you see it? Do you see it? So just give you a second. All right, so the move was actually c4. What we see instead is we see a3. I want to go over first the alternative move that Vishy could have played. So c4, what exactly happens at c4? This pawn is getting out of the way. It's preparing an attack on b5, and it's also defended by this bishop. So rook c2, c takes b5, a takes b5, and bishop takes b5. Now the rook is over here, and it has nobody that it can take, obviously, right? So these two pawns and these three pieces are going to create a formidable, unstoppable attack. But if a4 is played instead, now remember the time is slow, time is getting really low, it's hard to think very quickly, so I don't blame him. I wouldn't do any better, definitely not. Rook c2, a takes b5, a takes b5, bishop takes b5, and oh yeah, it's the two pawns. It's exactly the same. Oh, except it's not exactly the same. So rook takes c3. It's not over just yet. The game is now equal. Magnus has climbed back into a proper seating in this game, and he has good winning chances. Bishop f1, f7. I'm just going to kind of blitz through these moves. You can see the pawns are pushing, and the rooks are vying for this opportunity to take this piece. But this bishop is staring down, the knight is being tricky, and there's really no good way to get this pawn without losing material. But now this is a key position. In this time scramble with 8 seconds, Vishy has made a mistake. He's put the knight in front of the bishop. He's blocking the attack there. Now, instead, the computer prefers g2, just keeping this attack here, and you can just shuffle back and forth all day if you want, because you can never grab this pawn. Instead, we see the knight move blocking the bishop in, and the pawn falls. Knight c3, bishop b2. Magnus is in a commanding position now. He's got these rooks, and eventually over here there's going to be a pawn storm. Knight d1, rook bc2. You can hold onto the rook if you please, but it's easy enough to just exchange it. Some more moves, and you can see these pawns are just rolling. And here, Vishy actually surrenders. The game is completely over. A rook and two past protected pawns will be invading the king's space in no time, and the game will be over. And it is over. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys. Take care, and have a good one.